But we need to appreciate that social media really goes beyond just those networking sites. For example, when we talk about blogs should also fall within that space of social media. The wikis should be part of social media. So social media is quite a very expansive, it provides expansive platforms. It's not only social networking side. So when we are looking on how we can be able to promote communication and dialogue through social media, let's go beyond the networking platforms.
So I think he has given us some of the most, like Facebook, Twitter, he's talked of Google+, but it's saying that we should look at beyond like the blogs. Another example,
the wikis.
Wikis,
yeah.
Yes, wiki spaces. Another
RSS, rich site summary, like what you get from online newspapers, where as news comes in, is updated dynamically. Yes, that kind of.
So the RSS is like updates. So those are some of the modes of the tools that people use. Is there another one that we can have? Where do we categorize the maps? Like Google Maps?
Sorry, what was the question?
We are looking at the modes of types of social media.
At the moment, I've just got beyond technical platforms, but I wasn't sure what the question was.
Okay.
I didn't hear.
There are different modes or types of social media.
What about Google Maps? You asked about.
Yes, so well, I was just asking whether it's also part of social media. Google Maps. Okay. Yes. So we also agree that the maps are also part of social media. So
excuse me, maybe just if we were to look at media from the traditional concept of what really media is,
yes.
We know that it has been things like print, radio, and so forth, where communication has basically been perhaps one way, where you are either just a recipient, but largely the issue of contributing has been limited. So when we are talking of social media, the emphasis is on the fact that we also have now the opportunity to make a contribution to the production of content. And perhaps that is where issues like citizen journalism comes in, because everybody can be turned into a content creator. So social media enable us to also create, while we are consumers, we are also producers.
Yes, I think that is now getting clear, that I hope by now we all understand maybe the concept of social media or what it is. We all agree that it's more of a way that allows two-way communication, and there are different modes that we have described. And then we were to go to the next, maybe the concept. We're just looking at some of these concepts that professors described that we are going to, is the citizen journalism. So maybe if somebody can also describe it better, and then we merge the two and we carry on the discussion.
Just a question on the two-way communication. For it to be described as a social media, the two-way communication, should it be meeting like a diverse population, or if it's among two people, just a two-way communication between two people, which can only be accessed, that information can only be accessed by the two? Will that fall under social media?
Question to the audience. Who is responding?
Because we have many things coming up, apart from the usual text messaging, we have things like WhatsApp that you can use to communicate, but only two people.
It's a response.
Okay, maybe just to respond to that. When you talk about social media, you are trying to convey a message, but that message is not limited to one person. So as long as we are communicating with you, we are socializing with you, so it qualifies as a social media. But when you talk about now mass social media, that's why now you're just project, like now when you do Twitter, anybody can actually take on your handle and comment on it, and becomes a trending topic. So in that case, now it's mass scale. But when it's on the two of you can only invite somebody else into your conversation. It's closed.
Yes.
I think within the element of when you look at as much as you are able to communicate amongst the two of you, when the subscribers, there are people who are also able to access or read whatever you're contributing. Might be there may be a limitation of sharing, but I believe there's that level where everybody has access and everybody can, and that's why you're using Facebook, for instance.
There's another issue that I don't want to say too much because I'm going to say this tomorrow, but there's another thing about two-way communications and more than one-to-many, because if we look at the way technology is developing, I'm going to give a definition tomorrow about the network public sphere. Very often, if you use, for example, digital TV, you can, the audience can, superficially at least, interact with that. So what do we mean by two-way communication? So signals can be sent from the sender to the recipient and back again. That's two-way communication. But that doesn't mean that people can do an awful lot with that. So if we're looking at social medias and use of social media at grassroots level, then we need to be thinking about, one, also, as well as these things, we also need to think about the capacity of people to use technologies so that they have the skills and the expertise and the knowledge to do that. But then also the capabilities, because sometimes having the skills, if we have ICT centres everywhere where people are trained up, if the electricity goes off, if there's no internet connectivity, then the capability for people to use them. If there's no funding for people to get the technology, to update the technology, to keep it sustainable, and so on, there are all sorts of issues that affect this notion of communications, two-way communications. So I don't mean to say that this is not a step in the right direction. I just think we need to look critically at what we mean by this and what we as the grassroots need to get from this so that we can use this, so that if we're going to be broadcasters and producers of content as agents of social change, then we need to have the capacity and the capabilities to use that, beyond relying on large transnational corporations such as Sky TV or whatever the digital packages are here, or telecoms, or mobile communication carriers. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
And request, now we go to another concept, then we go back to the three, merge them and see how we can now use these simple tools that we have. And I request we look at it from the grassroots level, not from maybe policy makers level. The next thing that I would request that we look at is the other animal called citizen journalism. Citizen community journalism. Maybe if somebody understands, I request maybe you get in this small space here, the other level. So, who maybe has an understanding of what you mean by citizen journalism? And it's not academic definition that we are looking at. Yes.
I think when it comes to citizen journalism is whereby you communicate whatever information or message that is in your environment and make it available out there, either to the main media or to the authority. See, for example, we have in Citizen, we have iReporter. Like now, when I'm here, I can actually now log on to my iPad in here and upload whatever is going on here to the iReporter. Then the editor from the iReporter will just look at the story. If he finds that it makes sense, then he will project at the main three media. The Star newspaper, it launched the other day, also kind of an iReporter, whereby you can actually now upload the story, all the pictures and even the motion images out there, and then they look at it. If it makes sense, then they can project on TV, on newspaper, and also on their radio. So that one, in essence, what normally happens is that it kind of entrenches the capability of the mainstream media. Of course, there is the blogs, which can also now work as a community kind of citizen reporting. But now that one goes as far as how well do you popularize it? How well do people know that there is that particular media on the blogs and the rest? And again, who can access that particular kind of media?
Another dimension of citizen journalism.
Okay.
Yes.
Let me just add that in traditional media, I used to see some people called freelance. I don't know whether they are there anymore. Freelance journalists. Usually, this would be people who are not in the mainstream of that even maybe publishing house. But there are people who would solicit stories from wherever they are and sell those stories to the mainstream media. They would assess those stories to see whether they are newsworthy in their own criteria and then publish them. But now what we are talking about citizen journalism, from my understanding, is the fact that with the new technologies now, many people, in fact everybody now, can be turned into journalists. You can generate stories from wherever you are, whether it is stories about like what we are doing here, whether it is about agriculture, whether it is about youth mobilization, and be able to create that content and make it available to the mainstream media. And you would find that because of that, information becomes increasingly available timelessly. You can generate news that other mainstream media can be able to pick up. And so we are saying now everybody is now empowered to be able to generate content and share.
So I think we are moving in that direction. It's just simply what you're saying is everybody can be a journalist. You can use your phone, you can text that there is a conference in Kibugat on a website or a TV or a newspaper or a blog, and everybody will be able to read it. And the media can also follow what is taking place. And next, I would want us to just...
Maybe before we go further, just building on the second point, the aspect of freelance, though initially it was like realistic, or maybe